My best friend died. At his funeral, his wife told me something that changed everything. Posted in our TrueOffMyChest. I'm 34 years old, and 2 weeks ago, I lost my best friend of 20 years. His name was Marcus, and he died of a sudden heart attack at 35. No warning, no signs, just gone. One day we were texting about meeting up for our weekly basketball game, and the next day I got a call from his wife Sarah telling me he'd collapsed at work and didn't make it to the hospital. I've been walking around in a fog ever since. Marcus wasn't just my best friend, he was my brother in every way that mattered. We met in high school, became roommates in college, stood up at each other's weddings. He was there when my daughter was born. I was there when his son came into the world. Our families did everything together. Holidays, vacations, random Tuesday dinners. He was family. The funeral was yesterday. I gave the eulogy because Sarah asked me to, and I barely got through it. I talked about how Marcus was the kind of person who remembered everyone's birthday, who showed up when you needed help moving, who made everyone around him feel important. I talked about his terrible jokes and his infectious laugh, and how he could light up any room he walked into. What I didn't talk about was the guilt that's been eating me alive. The last time I saw Marcus, 3 days before he died, we had an argument. A stupid, petty argument about something that doesn't even matter now. He wanted to invest in some business opportunity with a mutual friend, and I told him it was a terrible idea. I was harsh about it. I said he was being naive and that he needed to think about his family instead of chasing get-rich-quick schemes. He got defensive, which I expected, but then he said something that's been haunting me. You know what your problem is? You're so afraid of taking risks that you can't stand seeing other people go after what they want. You've been playing it safe your whole life, and you resent anyone who doesn't. It stung because there was truth in it. I got angry. I told him that at least I wasn't going to lose my family's savings on a stupid investment. We didn't yell. We never yelled at each other. But there was this coldness when we said goodbye. We'd had arguments before, plenty of them, but we always texted later that day or the next to smooth things over. This time I didn't text, and neither did he, and then he died. So I stood at his funeral, giving this beautiful eulogy about my best friend, and all I could think was that the last real conversation we had ended with both of us angry. I never got to apologize. I never got to tell him that he was right, that I was projecting my own fears onto him. I never got to say goodbye properly. After the service, there was a reception at Marcus and Sarah's house. People were sharing stories, looking at photo albums, doing that thing people do where they try to celebrate a life while barely holding themselves together. I was standing in the kitchen, staring at a picture of Marcus and me from a camping trip 5 years ago, when Sarah approached me. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly, privately. I followed her upstairs to the home office. She closed the door and pulled an envelope out of the desk drawer. My name was written on it in Marcus's handwriting. "He gave this to me 6 months ago," Sarah said, her eyes red from crying. "He made me promise to give it to you if anything happened to him." My hands were shaking as I took the envelope. 6 months ago? Sarah, what? "Just read it," she said. "I'll give you some privacy." She left, closing the door behind her. I sat down in Marcus's desk chair and opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, several pages long, dated 6 months earlier. I started reading, and with each sentence my world shifted. "Hey, brother. If you're reading this, I'm gone." And knowing Sarah, she's following my instructions to wait until after the funeral to give this to you, which means you probably just gave some amazing eulogy that made everyone cry. Thanks for that, man. I always knew you were better with words than me. I need to tell you something, and I need you to read all of this before you react. This is going to be hard to hear, but you deserve to know the truth. 6 months ago, I was diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's a genetic heart condition that can cause sudden cardiac death. The doctors told me that I could go at any time, a week, a year, 10 years. There's no way to predict it. They offered me treatment options, but the success rates weren't great, and the side effects would have drastically reduced my quality of life. I decided not to pursue aggressive treatment. I know that probably sounds crazy to you. You tell me to fight, to try everything, to think about Sarah and Jake. But here's the thing. I did think about them. I thought about spending whatever time I had left feeling sick and weak, in and out of hospitals, unable to be the husband and father I want to be. Or I could live as normally as possible for as long as possible and make the most of the time I had. I chose the second option, and I chose not to tell you. I know you're probably angry about that right now. You're thinking about all the times over the past 6 months when you asked if I was okay and I said I was fine. You're thinking about how you deserve to know, how you would have wanted to be there for me. And you're right. But I also know you, brother, better than almost anyone. If I had told you, you would have spent every single moment we had left treating me like I was dying. You would have been careful around me, worried about me, unable to just be my friend. Every conversation would have had this weight to it. Every goodbye would have felt like it might be the last one. And I didn't want that. I didn't want my last months with you to be about my death. I wanted them to be about our friendship. I wanted to argue with you about stupid things. I wanted to beat you at basketball and listen to you make excuses about your knee. I wanted to hear about your work drama and give you unsolicited advice about your marriage. I wanted things to be normal for as long as they could be. Now about our last argument. I know that's probably eating at you. I know you're replaying it in your head and wishing you'd said something different. Stop. That argument was one of the realest, most honest conversations we've had in years. You called me out on my bullshit and I called you out on yours. That's what best friends do. And for the record, you were right. That investment opportunity was sketchy as hell. I didn't go through with it, by the way. After you left, I thought about what you said, and I realized you were looking out for me, even if your delivery was harsh. That's what you've always done. You've always had my back, even when it meant telling me things I didn't want to hear. But I was also right about you. You do play it too safe sometimes. You're so focused on avoiding mistakes that you miss out on opportunities. And I need you to promise me something. Don't let my death make you more afraid. Don't use this as proof that life is fragile and dangerous and something to be cautious about. Use it as proof that life is short. Take the risks. Chase the dreams. Don't wait. There's something else I need to tell you, and this is the hard part. Sarah knows and she's agreed to this, but it's going to be a lot to process. Jake isn't my biological son. Before you spiral, let me explain. Sarah and I struggled with infertility for 3 years before Jake was born. We tried everything, IVF, medications, specialists. Nothing worked. It was destroying Sarah, watching all our friends have babies while we kept failing. It was destroying our marriage too. After the last failed IVF attempt, we decided to look into other options. We considered adoption, but the wait times were years long. And then Sarah's doctor suggested using a sperm donor. At first, I was against it. My ego couldn't handle the idea of raising a child that wasn't biologically mine. But Sarah was falling apart, and I knew that if we didn't find a solution, we were going to lose each other. We started looking at donor profiles through a clinic. Anonymous donors, medical histories, physical characteristics. It all felt so clinical and weird. And then one night, after too much wine and too much crying, Sarah said something that changed everything. She said, "I wish we could just ask someone we actually know and trust." And I immediately thought of you. You had everything we were looking for in a donor. You're smart, healthy, kind, funny. You're already like family to us. And most importantly, you're the person I trust most in the world. The idea of our child having your genetics instead of some stranger's actually made the whole thing feel less scary. But I couldn't just ask you. It was too big, too weird, too complicated. So I sat on the idea for weeks, trying to figure out if it was genius or insane. Then you came over for dinner one night and you spent the whole evening playing with our friend's baby. And Sarah and I looked at each other and we both knew. This was right. You would say yes because you love us, and we would be honest with you about everything. Except we weren't. I chickened out. I couldn't bring myself to have that conversation with you. I was terrified you'd say no, or worse, that you'd say yes, but it would make things weird between us forever. So we went back to the clinic, and I asked them a question I probably shouldn't have. Was there any way to find a donor who matched my physical characteristics? They showed me profiles, and there was one, donor 847, who was eerily similar to me. Same height, same build, same coloring. But more than that, when I read the extended profile, the personality traits, the interests, even the handwriting sample they provided, it could have been me. Or it could have been you. We grew up together, man. We have the same mannerisms, the same sense of humor, similar interests. People used to joke that we were like twins separated at birth. And when I saw that donor profile, I realized something. This guy had all the same qualities I saw in you. The donor essay about why he was doing this talked about wanting to help families, about believing that being a parent was the most important thing a person could do. It was something you would have written. Sarah and I chose donor 847, and 8 weeks later she was pregnant. Jake was born 9 months after that, and he was perfect. He is perfect. And here's the thing, I don't know if donor 847 was you or not. The clinic's policies are strict about anonymity. I've never been able to confirm it, but in my heart, I've always believed it was. The timing lines up with when you mentioned you were doing some medical study thing to make extra money that year. The physical similarities, the way Jake has some of your expressions. I've spent the last 5 years watching Jake grow up, and sometimes I see you in him so clearly it takes my breath away. The way he tilts his head when he's thinking, his stubborn streak, his empathy. I don't know if that's genetics or just because he's been around you his whole life, but it doesn't matter. Because even if Jake isn't biologically yours, he's yours in all the ways that matter. You're his godfather. You're at our house twice a week. You taught him to ride a bike. You take him to the science museum. You remember his favorite dinosaur and his hatred of broccoli and exactly how he likes his birthday cake. You're already his uncle in every meaningful way. Which brings me to why I'm telling you this now, after I'm gone. Sarah is going to need help. Jake is going to need a father figure. I'm not asking you to replace me, no one could. But I'm asking you to be there for them the way you've always been there for me. Sarah knows everything I'm telling you in this letter. We've talked about it extensively, and she's agreed that if something happens to me, you should know the truth. If you decide you want to know for certain whether Jake is biologically yours, Sarah has the donor number and the clinic information. They might not release the information, but you could do a DNA test if you need that certainty. But before you do, I want you to think about what that information would actually change. If Jake is yours biologically, does that make you love him more? You already love him like crazy. If he's not yours, does that make you love him less? I don't think it would. So maybe the biology doesn't matter as much as we think it does. What matters is that Jake is about to grow up without his dad, and he's going to need you more than ever. Sarah is going to need you more than ever, and I need you to promise me that you'll be there for them. I need you to take Jake to his soccer games and help him with his science projects. I need you to teach him how to change a tire and how to treat women with respect and how to be a good man. I need you to be patient with Sarah when she's grieving and struggling and probably pushing people away, because that's what she does when she's hurting. I need you to be the person you've always been. My brother, my best friend, the person I trust with everything I have. And I need you to forgive yourself for our last argument. I'm not angry. I wasn't angry then, and I'm certainly not angry now. You were being a good friend, trying to protect me from making a mistake. That argument doesn't define our friendship. 20 years of loyalty and love and showing up for each other defines our friendship. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about my heart condition. I'm sorry I'm leaving you to deal with all of this without me. And I'm sorry if what I've revealed in this letter complicates your life. But I'm not sorry for how I lived my last months. I got to be your friend right up until the end, without the shadow of death hanging over us. That was worth it. Take care of them for me, and take care of yourself. And please, please take some risks. Ask out that woman at the coffee shop you keep talking about but never approach. Take that job opportunity you keep dismissing as too uncertain. Book that trip to Japan you've been saying you'll do someday. Live your life like it matters because it does. You've been the best friend a person could ask for. Thank you for 20 years of brotherhood. Thank you for being someone I could always count on. And thank you, in advance, for being there for my family when I can't be. I love you, man. I'll see you on the other side. Marcus. P.S. The investment opportunity you warned me about. I looked into it more after our argument. Turns out the guy behind it was running a Ponzi scheme. Got arrested last week. You literally saved my family's savings. So thanks for being a pain in my ass about it. You were right, as usual. I don't know how long I sat there after reading that letter. Could have been minutes, could have been an hour. I read it 3 times trying to process everything. Marcus had known he was dying for 6 months. He'd chosen not to tell me because he didn't want our last months together to be about death. He'd probably, used my sperm donation to conceive Jake, though he'd never confirmed it. And he'd written me this letter, this instruction manual for how to live without him, knowing that I'd need it. There was a knock on the door. Sarah came back in, and she could see from my face that I'd finished reading. "He told you," she said. "It wasn't a question." "He told me." My voice was rough. Did he really think donor 847 was me? Sarah sat down across from me. He was convinced. I was skeptical at first, but the more he pointed out the similarities, the more I wondered. The timing was right. You mentioned donating to some medical study around that time. We checked, and the clinic was running a recruitment campaign for donors that same month. And Jake, she smiled sadly. Jake has your expressions, your mannerisms. Marcus used to joke that Jake inherited his stubbornness from you. "Do you want to know?" I asked, "for certain." She shook her head. Marcus and I talked about this a lot. We decided that the not knowing was actually perfect, because it means Jake can be both of yours. He can have Marcus's name and legal parentage and all the love he poured into being a dad, but he can also have whatever piece of you might be in him too. And most importantly, Jake can just be Jake, without all the complicated biology defining who he is or isn't. "But what if he wants to know someday?" I asked. "What if he does one of those ancestry DNA tests?" "Then we'll deal with it then," Sarah said. "When he's old enough to understand the full picture. Right now, he's 5 years old and he just lost his daddy. That's all he needs to focus on." She reached out and took my hand. "Marcus wasn't asking you to replace him. He wasn't even necessarily asking you to be Jake's father. He was asking you to keep being you, the uncle who shows up and loves Jake and is part of his life. That's all. The same thing you've been doing all along." "But what if Jake is mine biologically?" I said. "Doesn't that change things?" "Does it?" Sarah asked. "You already love him. You're already in his life. You're already one of his favorite people in the world. A DNA test doesn't change any of that. It just gives you information that might make things more complicated than they need to be." She had a point. I thought about Jake, his gap-toothed smile, the way he lights up when I come over, how he insists I read him bedtime stories in different voices. Would I love him more if I knew he was biologically mine? No. Impossible. I already loved him completely. "Marcus asked me to take care of you both," I said. "He didn't have to ask. I would have done it anyway." "I know," Sarah said. "He knew that too, but he needed to say it. He needed to put it in words." We sat in silence for a moment. Downstairs, I could hear the murmur of voices, people still sharing memories of Marcus. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Did Marcus ever regret not telling me about his heart?" Sarah thought about it. He questioned it sometimes, especially near the end when he could feel himself getting weaker, but ultimately, no. He said that getting to be your friend without you treating him like he was fragile was one of the greatest gifts of his last months. He said it let him feel normal when nothing else in his life felt normal. "Our last argument," I started, but Sarah cut me off. "Was exactly what he needed," she said firmly. "He told me about it that night. He was actually happy about it in a weird way. He said it meant you still saw him as Marcus, not as a dying man you needed to handle carefully. He said you cared enough to call him out on his bullshit. That meant the world to him." I started crying then, just completely broke down. Sarah moved her chair closer and put her arm around me while I sobbed into my hands. I cried for Marcus, for the months he'd spent knowing he might die at any moment. I cried for Sarah and Jake, who'd lost the person they loved most. And I cried for myself, for the fact that my best friend had been carrying this enormous burden and had chosen to carry it alone to protect me. When I finally pulled myself together, Sarah handed me a tissue. "He left you something else too," she said. She opened the desk drawer and pulled out a key. "His storage unit. He's been collecting things for Jake, letters for every birthday until he turns 18, videos, gifts. But there's also a box in there labeled with your name. He said you'd know what to do with it when you were ready." I took the key. "Thank you," I said, "for everything, for being willing to share all of this with me. I know it can't be easy." "Your family," Sarah said simply. "That's what Marcus's letter was really about. Not biology, not legal documents, just the fact that your family and you always have been." We went back downstairs together. Jake ran up to me immediately, wrapping his little arms around my legs. "Uncle Mike," he said. "Yes, my name is Mike. I realized I never mentioned that. Mommy said Daddy went to heaven. Is he going to come back?" I knelt down so I was at his eye level. "No, buddy, he's not coming back, but he's always going to be with you in here." I pointed to his heart. "And I'm going to be here too, whenever you need me, okay?" "Okay," Jake said. "Then, can we still go to the dinosaur museum next week like you promised?" I looked up at Sarah. She nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yeah, buddy," I said. "We can definitely still go to the dinosaur museum." That was yesterday. Last night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything Marcus had written, about how he'd chosen to live his last months fully instead of fearfully, about how he'd trusted me with his family, about how he'd challenged me to take more risks, to stop playing life so safe. This morning, I called my boss and gave 2 weeks' notice. I've been thinking about starting my own consulting business for 3 years, but I always found reasons why it wasn't the right time. Well, if Marcus's death has taught me anything, it's that there is no right time. There's only now. I also called that woman from the coffee shop. Her name is Amanda. We're getting dinner on Friday. And I booked a flight to Japan for next month. I'm taking Jake and Sarah with me. Marcus and I always talked about going together someday. Well, someday is now. This afternoon, I went to the storage unit. Inside the box Marcus left for me was a collection of things from our 20-year friendship. Concert tickets from shows we went to. Photos from every stage of our lives. A copy of the truly terrible screenplay we tried to write together in college. And at the bottom, a USB drive. I took it home and plugged it into my laptop. It was a video, recorded about a week before Marcus died. He looked tired in it, but he was smiling. "Hey brother," he said to the camera. "If you're watching this, you've already read the letter, and you're probably overthinking everything because that's what you do. So I'm going to say this one more time, stop overthinking. Jake is Jake. Sarah is Sarah. You are you, and we are family. That's all that matters." He paused and his expression got more serious. "I know you're going to want to be there for them, and I know you're going to worry about overstepping or replacing me or whatever narrative you've got running in your head. But here's what I need you to understand. There's no replacing me because I'm irreplaceable, just like you're irreplaceable. You're not trying to be me. You're just being you, which is exactly what they need." He smiled again. "Now stop watching this video and go live your life. Take the risks. Make the mistakes. Don't wait for permission or the perfect moment. Just do it. That's my final piece of advice as your best friend. And this time you better listen because I can't call you out on your bullshit anymore if you don't." The video ended. I sat there staring at the black screen for a long time. Then I called Sarah. "What are you and Jake doing for dinner?" I asked. "Nothing special," she said. "Probably just ordering pizza." "Don't," I said. "I'm coming over. I'm cooking." Marcus's famous spaghetti recipe that he claimed was a family secret but actually came from the back of a pasta box. Sarah laughed, the first real laugh I'd heard from her since Marcus died. "He'd love that." "Yeah," I said, "he would." I don't know if Jake is biologically mine or not. Sarah's right. The not knowing is actually perfect. Because it doesn't matter. What matters is that Marcus was my brother, Sarah and Jake are my family, and I have a responsibility to honor Marcus's memory by living the way he asked me to live. Fully, bravely, without waiting for someday. I miss him every second. I probably always will. But I'm not going to waste the life I have being afraid or playing it safe or waiting for the perfect moment. Marcus didn't wait, and neither will I. Update 3 days later. I've gotten a lot of messages asking if I'm going to do a DNA test with Jake. The answer is no. Sarah and I talked about it extensively, and we both agree that the not knowing is a gift. Jake has a father, Marcus. He doesn't need the complication of biological questions at age 5. Maybe someday when he's older, if he wants to know, we'll cross that bridge. But for now, I'm just Uncle Mike, and that's perfect. I also went through more of the storage unit. Marcus left letters for Jake for every birthday, every major milestone, high school graduation, college, wedding day, first child. There's also a letter for Sarah for their 10th anniversary, their 20th, their 50th. He planned for a future he knew he might not see. But the last item in the storage unit broke me. It was a sealed envelope labeled "For Mike, open on your 50th birthday." I'm 34. That's 16 years from now. Marcus knew he wouldn't be here, but he wanted to make sure he could still show up for that milestone. I haven't opened it. I won't until I'm 50. But knowing it exists, knowing that Marcus took the time to write me one more letter that I won't read for 16 years, it's devastating and beautiful at the same time. Someone in the comments said that Marcus gave me a roadmap for how to live. That's exactly what he did, and I'm going to follow it. Thank you all for the kind words and support. It helps more than you know. Top comments. You/reading between the pines. I'm crying at my desk. Your friend loved you so much that he protected your friendship even in death. That's profound. Please keep being there for his family. You/therapist here. Therapist here. Your friend handled his diagnosis with remarkable emotional intelligence. By not telling you, he preserved the normalcy of your relationship, and his letter gave you permission to grieve without guilt. That's an incredible final gift. You adopted and loved. Biology doesn't make family. Love makes family. Jake is lucky to have had Marcus as his dad and to have you as his uncle. Don't let DNA test results change what's already true. You take the risk 2024. Your friend literally told you from beyond the grave to stop playing it safe, and you quit your job and asked out the girl. Marcus is somewhere smiling so big right now. Live that life, man.